All right, buckle up, because you're about to dive into one of the most jaw-dropping, heart-pounding, and downright electrifying confrontations ever captured on live television. Picture this: Hollywood's toughest, most enigmatic actor Tom Hardy squaring off against a morning show host who thinks he can throw curveballs and get away with it. What unfolds is nothing short of a verbal massacre, a clash so intense, so raw, it'll leave you speechless. Trust me, you're not ready for how this explodes. Hit that subscribe button, drop a comment with your thoughts on Tom Hardy's epic takedown, and let's get into this wild ride. Is about to get real. Imagine the scene: Tom Hardy, the man who embodies intensity, sitting across from George Stephanopoulos on Good Morning America. The airs already crackling with tension. Hardy's there to promote his latest blockbuster, dressed in his signature low-key style, a simple black jacket, maybe a plain tee underneath, but those piercing eyes of his are screaming he's not here for nonsense. Stephanopoulos, with that polished practice TV grin, kicks things off. Tom, thanks for joining us this morning. He says, all charm and smiles. Your new film's getting rave reviews. But first, I want to dive into something else. Hardy shifts in his seat, just a fraction, but you can see it. His jaw tightens, his posture stiffens. Something's brewing. Sure, George, he replies, his voice steady, but laced with a Birmingham grit that hints he's ready for whatever coming. What's on your mind? Stephanopoulos leans, and that smile still placid on, but there's a glint in his eye like he's about to land a punch. There's been some controversy around your comments on method acting and mental health. He says, pausing for effect. Critics are saying you've been irresponsible in how you approach your craft. The camera zooms in on Hardy's face, and you can see the shift. His eyes narrow, his lips press into a thin line. The vibe in the studio changes instantly. This wasn't supposed to be an ambush. Irresponsible, Hardy repeats, his voice low, deliberate, like he's tasting the word and finding it sour. That's a bold choice of words. George, care to elaborate? Stephanopoulos, thinking he's got the upper hand, presses on. Several mental health advocates have criticized your recent interviews where you talked about diving into dark psychological spaces for your roles. They're saying you're glamorizing dangerous behavior. Do you agree with them? Hardy tilts his head, his Birmingham accent sharpening as he fires back. Do I agree with him? I'm here to answer questions, George, but it sounds like you're the one making statements. Who are these advocates? What exactly did I say that's got them so worked up? Stephanopoulos, still trying to steer the ship, doubles down. I'm asking the questions here, Tom. What do you say to parents who might be worried about young actors following your example? The studio falls dead silent. You can feel the weight of every eye on Hardy, the audience, the crew, the cameras, all waiting. Hardy stares at Stephanopoulos for what feels like forever, his gaze like a laser cutting to the host's polished facade. Then he speaks, his voice calm, but dripping with menace. Parents should be more worried about morning show hosts who lob accusations without doing a shred of research. George, you're throwing around words like irresponsible based on what? Gossip, clickbait headlines. Stephanopoulos smile flickers just for a second. He's not used to this. Tom, I don't think that's fair. We're just trying to have an honest conversation here. Honest. Hardy lets out a short, sharp laugh that doesn't touch his eyes. Mate, if you wanted honest, you've cleared this line of questioning with my team. You have done your homework instead of parroting some teleprompter nonsense. But that's not what this is it? Stephanopoulos, still clinging to his script, tries to push forward. I think our viewers deserve to hear your response to these legitimate concerns. Your viewers deserve better than tabloid trash dressed up as journalism. Hardy snaps, his voice still controlled, but now carrying a weight that fills the room. Tell me, George, when was the last time you actually looked into method acting? Talk to a mental health expert about how actors process emotions in a safe professional setting. Or are you just reading off someone else's notes? Stephanopoulos is rattled now, his cool slipping. Tom, I think you're being defensive. Hardy's voice carries a mix of disbelief and amusement, like he can't believe the nerve. George, the first drag myself out of bed at 5 a.m. to talk about a film I poured my heart into. You blindsided me with this gotcha nonsense based on quotes you can't even source. That's not me being defensive, that's me having standards. Stephanopoulos, desperate to regain control, shuffles his notes. Well, the quotes speak for themselves. Do they? Hardy leans forward slightly, his eyes locked on the host. Then let's hear him quote me, George, word for word. Which interview, which publication? What exact words did I say that's got you so concerned? The silence is deafening. Stephanopoulos glances at his notes, then back at Hardy, his confidence crumbling. Well, there have been several interviews where you discuss your intense preparation methods. Several interviews. Hardy echoes his tone, mocking now, but you can't name one. Can you know specific? Quote, no journalist, no publication. You're throwing around accusations about my professional integrity, and you got nothing to back it up, Tom. I think we're getting off track here, Stephanopoulos stammers, his voice betraying his nerves. No, George, we're right on track, Hardy, says his voice steady. But kind of like a blade, you call me irresponsible. You suggested I'm a bad influence on young actors. And now you can't even tell me what I supposedly said. That's not journalism, mate, that's character. Assassination. Stephanopoulos is sweating now, his polished demeanor cracking like cheap glass. I have the information right here in my notes. He says fumble with his papers, then Red Hardy challenges his voice, like Steele read the exact quote. That's got you so worried about my influence, go on the host's hands tremble as he flips through his notes, clearly stalling the specific quote isn't as important as the overall pattern of statement. Hardy's eyes widen, and he lets out a laugh that's more disbelief than amusement. The specific quote isn't important, George. You just spent 5 minutes questioning my entire career based on something you claim I said, and now you're telling me the actual words don't matter. That's not what I'm saying. Stephanopoulos stumbles, his face reddening. Then what are you saying? Hardy presses, leaning forward. Now his presence dominating the set. Because from where I'm sitting, it looks like you lured me onto this show under false pretenses to sling accusations you can't back up. The tension in the studio is suffocating. Crew members exchange nervous glances, cameras waver, slightly unsure whether to keep rolling. Stephanopoulos clears his throat, trying to pivot. Tom, let's talk about your new film, The Character. You play deals with some heavy themes. No, George. Hardy interrupt, his voice firm. But control, we're not moving on yet. You just spent half this interview attacking my methods based on zero research you owe your viewers. An explanation. I think we should move on, Stephanopoulos says, his voice tight. And I think you should answer the question. Hardy shoots back. You brought up these so-called mental health advocates who are supposedly up in arms about me. Name one. Give me a single name of someone who's criticized my approach. Stephanopoulos shifts uncomfortably, his eyes darting to his notes. Tom, there have been several articles. Hardy cuts in, his tone dripping with sarcasm, but no names, no quotes, no actual criticism. You can point to your throw around vague claims and expect me to just sit here and take it, Tom. That's not the same thing at all. Stephanopoulos says, try and claw back some authority. Isn't a Hardy fires back. You just told millions of viewers that mental health experts think I'm reckless, that parents should be worried about me influencing young actors, but you can't provide one shred of evidence. That's not journalism, George. That's gossip. Stephanopoulos' face is flushed, his composure unraveling. We have producers who research these topics. Your producers. Hardy repeats, his tone almost pitying now. Let me ask you something, George. How long have you been in journalism? That's not relevant. Stephanopoulos snaps. I think it's very relevant. Hardy counters. Because what you're doing right now isn't journalism. It's lazy, irresponsible reporting that gives real journalists a bad name. Tom, I don't appreciate your tone, Stephanopoulos says, his voice shaking slightly, and I don't appreciate being ambushed on live TV by someone who didn't bother to fact-check. Hardy retorts, you invited me here to talk about my work, then launch into an attack based on information you can't even verify. That's not hosting, George. That entrapment the studio audience is frozen watching this disaster unfold. You can see crew members in the background, wide-eyed, probably praying for a commercial break. Stephanopoulos tries again to pivot. Tom, I think you're overreacting. Hardy's voice drops to a low, dangerous register. You accuse me of potentially harming young actors. You implied I'm reckless with my mental health. You suggested I'm a bad influence, all without a single fact to back it up. How exactly should I react? These are legitimate questions about celebrity responsibility, Stephanopoulos says, grasping at straws. Based on what Hardy demands, show me the study, show me the expert opinion, show me anything other than your producer's half-baked interpretation of some rumor they read online. Stephanopoulos looks down at his notes, stalling again. The concerns have been raised in various media outlets. Hardy echoes, his voice dripping with disdain. George, do you hear yourself? You sound like a politician dodging a scandal. It's been reported. People are concerned. Those are weasel words, mate. That's what people say when they're making it up.